flowers gone, long time passing, where have all the flowers gone?
Chapter 15. Corpsman and Little John. On June 5th, Gulf Company choppered to FSB Russell, where we assumed responsibility for the defense of the firebase, while also conducting search and destroy operations in the surrounding area. On Firebase Russell, in this vivid snapshot frozen in time, I proudly stand beside the formidable Lieutenant William Sachs, doing my best to project an air of importance, though truth be told, his presence alone commands enough gravity for the both of us. To his right sits the ever-watchful Sergeant Donal Backus, our steadfast platoon sergeant, always ready to keep us on course, and out of too much trouble. Hovering in the background is Frank Ortega, a private first class from Los Angeles with a knack and reputation for sniffing out chaos. Aptly nicknamed Weasel, his uncanny ability to uncover mischief often left us both exasperated and impressed. To our front, the squad leaders assemble. Corporal Dale Duke sits uncharacteristically quiet on one end, while Corporal Alonzo Watts claims center stage with his usual authority, and Lance Corporal Vander Scott, affectionately dubbed Scotty, anchors my other side. Each of these seasoned warriors brought their own flavor of leadership to the fold, and together they forged the backbone of our platoon. In the midst of the morning briefing, and Weasel's ceaseless scribbling of notes that somehow made sense only to him, his endless curiosity served as a reminder of why his nickname was so well earned. He had a gift for staying perpetually nosy and unfailingly alert. Notably absent from the photo is Doc Mack, our fearless corpsman who had recently rotated home after months of dedicated service. His replacement, Navy Corpsman Bob Zafran, arrived with a swagger and an undeniable lesson about the world. While Marines are known for their colorful language, sailors elevate profanity to an art. Doc Bob's early days in Vietnam were akin to a baptism by fire, where the pristine precision of naval medical training collided head-on with the chaotic reality of our jungle terrain. Coming from the predictable chill of Buffalo, New York, Bob Safran quickly discovered that no amount of textbook knowledge could brace him for the brutal wrath of sweltering humidity, treacherous mountain passes, and soul-crushing patrolling. The Navy had expertly trained him to patch up wounds, but facing the sheer brutality of the environment of Vietnam, that was like trying to slap a Band-Aid on a hurricane. But Doc Bob did more than adapt to the harsh new environment. He conquered it. It wasn't long, maybe 10 pounds or so of sweat, before he was one of us. One of Doc Bob's first medical challenges was with PFC, Brian Bossong, our daring Pittsburgh machine gunner. Brian had been feeling nausea on and off through the day and had abdominal cramps that lingered. When night fell, things took a turn for the worse. Brian was suffering extreme fatigue and chills. His legs were barely able to respond to his will, leaving him uncertain if he could surmount the 40 feet uphill climb to see Doc Bob. When he stumbled into our makeshift hooch, Doc instantly recognized the gravity of the situation. Brian's temperature had soared to a staggering 104 degrees. Immediate action was critical to avert disaster. Corpsman Bob Safran sprang into action, utilizing every canteen of water at his disposal to soak Brian's body in an effort to bring his temperature down. Meanwhile, he sent me on a mission to retrieve additional canteens from the platoon while he vigilantly monitored Brian's vital signs. In a flash, he grabbed my radio and reached out to his seasoned partner, Doc Pritchett. Together, they orchestrated a medevac chopper to rescue Brian at lightning speed. However, when the helicopter finally arrived, a new hurdle emerged. Darkness had enveloped the hilltop, rendering the pilot unable to locate a safe landing spot. Lieutenant Sachs quickly devised a clever plan. He instructed us to place heat tablets used to warm our sea rations inside our helmets to illuminate the corners of the landing zone. As we ignited the glowing heat tabs, a beacon emerged, clearly marking the landing spot for the CH-46 Sea Knight. We carefully carried Brian to the landing area on a makeshift stretcher, continuously dousing him with cool water in a desperate bid to help him. Within minutes, Brian was whisked away, and we were left praying fervently for his recovery. After a grueling 2-week stay in the Quang Tri's Battalion Hospital, Brian rejoined us, and we couldn't have been more relieved. Corpsmen weren't merely the heart of Marine infantry platoon during the war. They were the very heartbeat of survival itself. These legendary docs earned not only their iconic title, but also our unwavering respect through their extraordinary dedication. Before deployment, simulated combat scenarios and hands-on experiences with an array of medical equipment ensured that each medical corpsman was not just well prepared, but truly battle-ready for the unpredictable storm of war. From the hallowed halls of naval schools to the intense jungles of Vietnam, every step taken was a testament to crafting heroes whose care and courage defined the very soul of their Marine Corps units. All of our corpsmen were remarkable, and I still remember the first time I met Jim Barczyk, affectionately known as Doc Bart. His presence was unforgettable, a kind-hearted corpsman who made a solemn vow never to take a life. While every Marine carried a weapon for protection or duty, Doc Bart chose a different path. He kept his M1911 pistol safely stowed away at the bottom of his pack, a silent promise that it would never be drawn. As far as that is concerned, Doc Bob never displayed his weapon either. Both corpsmen relied on the Marines around them for their safety. Doc Bart's journey into the Navy, and later into the role of a corpsman, was deeply rooted in personal tragedy. His dear brother, coincidentally a Marine, had been gravely injured a year earlier in Vietnam. That suffering his brother endured shaped Doc Bart's resolve to be devoted solely to saving lives. To his testament of caring, he even hid his service in Vietnam from his mother's eyes, not even writing home a letter to let her know he was serving in Vietnam. He knew it would worry her. I often recall the light-hearted moments during our service together, and remember the laughter that would ripple through our platoon the day Doc Bart decorated his helmet with fresh wildflowers, a small act that spoke volumes about his free spirit and his heartfelt belief in beauty and hope, even in the darkest of times. My admiration for him only deepened once I truly grasped the essence of his character. Here was a man whose entire being was measured by love, compassion, and duty, a man who chose to dedicate his life to healing rather than hurting, a standard of manliness that transcended any conventional notion of strength. Like another hero of our time, Bob Safran, Doc Bart embodied an unwavering commitment to his calling. Their stories of bravery, sacrifice, and unselfish service remain etched in my heart, and I look forward to sharing more of these memories in my memoir as a tribute to their extraordinary service. Decades later, the echoes of war still reverberate in the fabric of my life. My wife Brenda and I received an invitation from our dear friends, Dave and Donna, to catch a screening of Hacksaw Ridge. Dave, an Army medic and Vietnam veteran, found himself profoundly impacted by the tale of World War II medic Desmond Doss, his own history dancing in tandem with Doss's sacrifices. However, when a particularly graphic scene unleashed a torrent of painful memories, a wave of panic swept over Dave, prompting him to flee to the lobby. I quickly followed him, and there, on a bench far from the film's relentless onslaught, he opened up about how those vivid images had dragged him back to the haunting moments on the battlefield. Our wives soon joined us, and together we agreed to leave the theater, craving the solace of our homes. Later, in a moment of quiet reflection, Dave expressed his regret for his reaction, and I reassured him that my own heart too bore the heavy weight of similar memories. His heartfelt confession struck a chord within me, a reminder that corpsmen and medics carry a lifelong burden. Each life saved is a triumph, yet every loss cuts deeper than a blade. In the crucible of battle, These unsung heroes are tasked with making unimaginable choices in the blink of an eye, a duty no one should ever have to shoulder. While their actions save countless lives, the guilt and weight of responsibility cling to them like shadows. I am profoundly grateful to have never faced such harrowing decisions, and my heart aches for those who have borne this burden with unwavering bravery and resilience. Meet Private Placo, who was as hard to find as Elmo. During his time in Vietnam, Placo earned quite the dubious reputation among his fellow Marines, becoming the unwitting poster child for every conceivable method of dodging the inevitable grind of jungle warfare and the perils that lurk just beyond the rear lines. His case wasn't just unusual, it was a study in absurdity. Picture this, a Marine arriving in a war zone about the same time as I did, but 6 months later, I wouldn't recognize him if he was standing beside me. Private Plaxo didn't simply decline combat. He embarked on an elaborate treasure hunt for every fake medical or psychological condition that could possibly grant him a reprieve from the front lines. His resume of ailments was as diverse as it was fictitious, each one more creative than the last, ensuring that he spent his days safely behind the protective curtain of the rear echelon. But the pièce de résistance of his antics occurred whenever fate, or perhaps sheer misfortune, conspired to finally pull him back into the jungle. Instead of becoming a brother in arms, he would approach his fellow Marines with an audacious request. "Shoot me in the foot," he'd plead, as if that risky injury could magically transform him back stateside and eligible for an immediate discharge. One can only wonder what sort of personality harbored such an almost comical desire to go home under any circumstance. Of course, the unwritten code of Marine camaraderie, and perhaps a touch of common sense, prevented anyone from seriously entertaining his proposals. After all, if he was so desperate to be sidelined, why not self-inflict the injury rather than imposing such a risky experiment on one of us? In the grand theater of military service, his escapades served as an odd, if not entirely bizarre, subplot, a reminder that sometimes, even among the most disciplined infantry units, absurdity finds a way to crawl in through the cracks of duty. Introducing Private First Class John McConnell, the devoted disciple of Tun Tavern's return to Philadelphia, who was the very opposite of Private Placo. When John tangled with razor-sharp elephant grass, the man bled marine green. Dubbed Little John for being shorter than his namesake in the platoon, he blended the spirit of a warrior with the humor of a jester. He was a character whose shining star lifted our hearts whenever chaos cast its gloom upon our souls. In the darkest hours of my days in Vietnam, it was shared laughter alongside Little John that kept me going, yet it may well have been while patrolling near Firebase Sierra that his legendary valor first revealed itself. On June 27th, as the sun dipped low in a blaze of brilliant color, we set our night position 6 miles northwest of Firebase Russell. Our mission swept us up to the rugged heights of Mutter's Ridge, where we took up quarters in time-worn fighting holes atop the notorious former firebase named Sierra, a hill that whispered grim secrets of a fierce battle months earlier when 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, clashed with the relentless 248th NVA Regiment, leaving behind a heavy cost to our brothers in arms, a truth that had yet to fully sink in that fateful evening. As darkness cloaked the terrain, Lieutenant Sachs leaned in to Corporal Gordon Winter, freshly promoted to 3rd Squad leader following Corporal Vander Scott's departure. "Gordy," he commanded with quiet intensity, "send out a listening post ahead of our position." Without hesitation, Corporal Winter dispatched Lance Corporal Frank James, Dave Neighbors, and Private Placo to keep a watchful ear on the ebony-painted night, unaware that trouble was brewing on the horizon. Later that evening, as shadows deepened, Lieutenant Sachs made his routine check of our perimeter. His focus was swiftly shattered by the unmistakable sound of animated chatter emanating from the listening post and Private Placo, whose loud conversation cut through the night like a glaring beacon. Frustration and urgency flashed across the lieutenant's face as he retreated back to the command post, delivering a critical message. "Waggoner, tell them to shut the hell up before the NVA hears them." Barely had the words left his lips when the enemy's senses were alerted, and within minutes, chaos transformed the night. A Chi-Com grenade detonated in the darkness, rippling through our ranks like a shock wave. With no time to waste, Lieutenant Sachs hastily handed me the map coordinates of the listening post and barked orders for mortar support. In the blink of an eye, he sprinted from the command post, assembling a squad to rescue our beleaguered men. Trailing behind into the ink-black night, my vision blurred in the dim light as I connected on the horn with Bill Juno, our unflappable radio operator for the mortar team. Together, we zeroed in on our LP's coordinates as I requested a fire mission roughly 120 meters ahead of their position. Bill's steady expertise shone as we orchestrated mortar fire designed to protect both the post and our rescue team. With precision, a high explosive round lit up the darkness in a searing flash upon impact. Adjusting aim, I called for the mortar crew to shift right by 30 meters and drop 20 meters from the previous impact point. The next explosion reverberated like a fiery heartbeat, detonating behind the suspected enemy lines. When my calculations confirmed the blasts were landing a mere 60 meters in front of the LP, I decisively issued the command, "Fire for effect," triggering a cascade of rounds that erected a formidable wall of defense against the encroaching NVA. As the echoes of mortar fire subsided, Lieutenant Sachs and Corporal Winter's resilient team surged into the dense jungle, determined to repel the North Vietnamese advance. Leading the counter-assault was Private First Class John McConnell, ably supported by Brian Bossong, whose relentless machine gun barrage formed a deadly impact that swiftly drove back the enemy. John's valor shone that night, earning him a well-deserved Bronze Star for his extraordinary heroism. Yet the fierce encounter came at a steep price. 2 Marines from the listening post were wounded in the melee, with Private Placo suffering an ironic yet severe foot injury that eventually cost him his leg. As the dust of battle settled, our rescue team rallied to ensure the wounded were safely evacuated, while Doc Pritchett and I braced ourselves for getting the medevac. To seal our fate, Lieutenant Sachs summoned Snoopy, an AC-47 gunship outfitted with 3 miniguns to deliver crucial air support. In moments, the formidable aircraft looped the obsidian sky as though the gates of hell had burst open, unleashing a roaring tempest. The chainsaw-like clamor of 7.62 millimeter tracer rounds spiraled around our perimeter, scorching the night like a dragon's searing breath. Their relentless barrage ignited darkness with vivid fury. The following day, our patrol methodically reviewed the aftermath of the night's carnage, discovering several enemy blood trails leading away from Sierra, a haunting testament to the bitter skirmish that had unfolded. Following the silent clues, we uncovered a shallow grave, the somber earth whispering the haunting stories of destruction and loss that would linger long after the battle had faded. For me, the experience culminated in a riveting radio exchange with Lieutenant Colonel William Britt, our revered battalion commander, which secured a well-timed field promotion. Now, as Lance Corporal Waggoner, my heart swelled with pride, knowing that my adept radio skills had made an indelible impact. About a month later, Private First Class McConnell found himself enjoying a field promotion of his own, a promotion served with a dash of audacity and spiced with his unmistakable flavor of bravery. Not long after my promotion, Lieutenant Colonel Britt decided to pay Golf Company a visit out in the field. Landing in a Huey helicopter like a rock star descending onto a stage, The Colonel Britt began his review of our little slice of action in our topical paradise. Never one to shy away from a little chaos, our ever-ingenious Little John leaned toward our gun squad leader, mischief dancing in his eyes as he murmured, "You're going to love this, Morales." With a playful swagger, he bounded off to pay a cheeky visit to our battalion commander, a battle-hardened hero from the Korean War. Now, let's set the record straight. In the field, saluting an officer is a no-go for safety reasons, a breach of military decorum that shouldn't be mistaken for foolhardiness, and Little John was about to push the limits. Within seconds, Captain Robinson couldn't help but roll his eyes and grimace as Little John's irreverent words filled the air. "Thanks for coming, Colonel Britt. I just wanted to say how much I love this green mother effer. I can't get enough of this Marine Corps shit." The comment wasn't exactly the etiquette one expected when addressing the commander-in-chief of our little slice of chaos. In fact, you could practically see the skipper's inner light dimming as our machine gunner dished out such brazen disrespect to the very man meant to lead us. But here's the twist. In a move that left our company commander utterly flabbergasted, shortly after Private First Class McConnell's impromptu sortie, Colonel Britt turned to our leader and declared, "I like that Marine's grit. Promote him up a grade and I'll sign the orders myself." To the chagrin of Captain Robinson, the order was quickly carried out and our daring machine gunner ascended the ranks with a fresh field promotion. If you'd ever had the pleasure of meeting Little John, you'd understand why this tale rings so true. Our rogue hero, in his unmistakable style, would later cheekily proclaim, "Chesty Puller, move aside. Little John is here to save the day."
The eagle born to those who pledged their lives in sacred honor was smiled upon by God and freed from chains and iron collar. He is held aloft on unity and by history revered for preserving peace through strength. His wings now reach across 200 years. But for each of those in 1 year more, God has smiled upon the Corps, from the Barbary coast to the eastern sand, by sword, by gunner, by bare hand. So it's been and shall be weighed, though many are born, few are made. Faithful always they shall remain, dogs to loose when war is raged.